update, and Sarah's going to stick with us. In fact, our entire newsroom is working on this story. We've got a crew on the way to Cleveland Hopkins Airport right now because this is breaking news. But once again, let me reiterate, if you are just joining us, a second healthcare worker there in Dallas has been confirmed, has come down with a case of Ebola. Now, earlier, this healthcare worker was on a flight, Frontier Airlines flight number 1143. That was Monday, October the 13th. That airplane flew from Cleveland to Dallas, Texas. The CDC, as Sarah Buttison just reported, the CDC is asking everyone who was on that airplane to contact the Centers for Disease Control. We've got a phone number on the screen you see at the bottom, 800-CDC-INFO or 800-232-4636. There were 132 passengers who were on that flight. As I said, at Cleveland Hopkins Airport, we're in touch with officials out there. They have segregated that airplane, that Frontier Airlines airplane that was used for flight 1143 on Monday evening, October the 13th. They have pulled it aside. They have put it in a separate place, and experts are going on that plane decontaminating that aircraft because one of the passengers who'd been on that aircraft indeed has come down with Ebola. This is that second healthcare worker. She was working with that man by the name of Duncan, who died several days ago. Perhaps you will recall that incident in Dallas, Texas. A man had come in from West Africa and had come down with Ebola. She was among those who were treating him. You see the workers right here. This is the kinds of garb they have to wear when they are treating Ebola patients. They're at that Texas hospital. They are covered in that kind of garb. Apparently she was covered in it but has come down with it. That is a picture of the first person who came down with Ebola, and that is Mr. Duncan, who died several days ago. These are pictures that we're bringing you. Breaking news once again. But once again, the CDC is saying everybody who was on that flight 1143 from Cleveland to Dallas, and I'm certain this information is being given on the Dallas end of the story as well, but everybody who was on that particular aircraft needs to contact the CDC. The phone number is 800-CDC-INFO, I-N-F-O. I'll break the numbers down for you. 800-232-4636. If you were on that flight, you need to contact the CDC. We're begging you to do that. If you know somebody who was on that flight who may not know this information as I'm giving it to you right now, I want you to contact those people and tell them they need to contact the CDC. We continue to follow this story, which is breaking right out at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. That's part of the story breaking here. The other part of it, of course, is breaking in Dallas, Texas, where a second health care worker has come down with the Ebola disease. She was apparently working or treating that man who died several days ago, a man by the name of Duncan, who died several days ago. And I want to go back to Sarah Buttison right now in the newsroom. Sarah, do you have more information?
I'm going to record it.
I do have more information for you, Leon. We have right now the Frontier Airlines statement that they just sent us regarding this second patient being diagnosed with Ebola. Here's what we can tell you. At approximately 1 a.m. on October 15th, Frontier was notified that by the CDC that a customer traveling on Frontier Airlines flight 1143 Cleveland to Dallas-Fort Worth on October 13th had tested positive for Ebola. Now, the flight landed in Dallas at 8:16 p.m. local time in Dallas and remained overnight at the airport, having completed its flying for the day. Now, we're told that the airline completed a cleaning of the airplane that night, and the airplane was returned to service the next day. It was cleaned again in Cleveland last night, so it has had 2 cleanings since that flight. Previously, the customer involved, that is the Ebola patient, had traveled from Dallas to Fort Worth on Cleveland flight 1142 on October 10th. We don't know why the patient was in the Cleveland area, but we are working to gather those details. We are also told by Frontier Airlines, and this is really interesting here, that the customer, the patient, exhibited no signs or symptoms of illness while on the flight, according to the crew. Frontier responded immediately, they say, upon being notified by the CDC, and have removed that aircraft from service, and they're working closely with the CDC to identify and contact any of their customers who may have been on their flight with this woman or this patient who has been diagnosed with having Ebola on flight 1143. And again, we can't emphasize enough that customers who may have traveled on that flight need to contact the CDC. There were 132 people on board this flight, and they should call the CDC at 1-800-CDC-INFO as soon as possible. Leon?
Thank you, Sarah. I will add that as far as I know, and the newsroom is going to help me on this one, as far as I know, we have not identified this second healthcare worker who has come down with Ebola. We have no idea what she was doing in Cleveland, how she got on that plane, but I'm told that she was in the Akron area, and as soon as we can find more information on that, hold on with me. I want to go back to Sarah. I've got some information here. Sarah, I'm going to kick it back to you while I digest.
I just got this information in from the Ohio Department of Health, so bear with me as I read through this, but there are important details that I want to let you know about here. This morning, the Centers for Disease Control told state health officials that a second healthcare worker in Dallas was diagnosed with Ebola, and it turns out that that healthcare worker was visiting family in Akron from October 8th to October 13th. State officials say Ohio has acted swiftly and is working with the CDC and Summit County health officials to identify people who may have been in close contact with the healthcare worker and implement quarantine as necessary. In addition, Ohio is working with the airline to identify individuals on her return flight to Dallas. And a statement here I'm going to read from the state epidemiologist and the interim chief of the Ohio Department of Health. She says, this is Mary Diorio. She said the Ohio Department of Health has been working since July on its preparedness plan in the event that Ohio ever got positive case in the state, and we're confident in our efforts to respond efficiently and effectively. And I want to repeat that again. The second healthcare worker who has been diagnosed with Ebola was visiting family here in Akron from October 8th to 13th. And of course, they were on a flight on October 13th from Cleveland to Dallas-Fort Worth. And anybody on that flight who thinks they were who was on flight 1143 needs to call the CDC.